Countertop is defined as a horizontal surface typically installed on top of base cabinets or other supports in kitchens, bathrooms, and other areas where work or food preparation is done. It provides a functional surface for various activities such as cooking, eating, washing, and storage. The National Electrical Code requires receptacles to be installed in specified locations in residential kitchens. Kitchen countertops must have receptacles installed within 2 feet, or 600 millimeters, measured horizontally from the inside edge of the countertop. Appliance outlets must be installed on countertops for countertop appliances that do not require a dedicated circuit, such as toasters, microwaves, and coffee makers. The counter in a family room bar area meets the definition of a countertop as it provides a horizontal surface for food preparation and storage. However, if the counter depth is only 6 inches and cannot accommodate appliances, it may not be considered a countertop appliance area, but there are exceptions to keep in mind. The NEC does not specifically address the requirement for receptacles on countertops that are less than 12 inches deep. Therefore, local code requirements or industry standards should be consulted for guidance. In general, it is recommended to consider several factors when determining if a receptacle is necessary on a narrow countertop. Firstly, consider the purpose of the countertop. If the countertop is primarily used for display purposes or as a decorative feature, a receptacle may not be necessary. Secondly, think about the accessibility to other outlets. If there are readily accessible receptacles nearby, an additional receptacle on the narrow countertop may not be essential. Thirdly, consider future use. If there is a possibility that the countertop may be used for countertop appliances in the future, it would be prudent to install a receptacle now. It is recommended to consult with a local electrician or building inspector to determine the specific requirements applicable to the installation in question. When considering the placement and requirements for electrical receptacles on countertops, several factors come into play, especially when dealing with non-standard countertop depths. Let's delve into a more detailed exploration of these considerations. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, serves as the cornerstone for electrical safety standards in residential and commercial settings. When interpreting and applying the NEC, understanding certain definitions and distinctions is crucial. The NEC mandates that receptacles be installed along kitchen countertops so that no point along the countertop is more than 24 inches, or 600 millimeters from a receptacle outlet. This ensures that appliances can be conveniently plugged in without the need for excessive extension cords, which can pose safety hazards. Now, consider a situation where a countertop is significantly narrower than the standard depth, such as the 6-inch deep countertop described. The NEC doesn't provide explicit guidance for countertops less than 12 inches deep. In such cases, we must rely on interpretations of the code and consider the intent behind the regulations. One key aspect to consider is whether the countertop is likely to be used for countertop appliances. If the countertop is primarily intended for food preparation, serving, or other activities where appliances are commonly used, installing a receptacle is generally recommended. This provides flexibility for future use and ensures compliance with the spirit of the NEC safety requirements. However, if the countertop serves a purely decorative or display function, the need for a receptacle may be less critical. Local electrical codes and regulations may offer additional guidance on the installation of receptacles in non-standard countertop configurations. Some jurisdictions may have specific requirements for narrow countertops, while others may defer to the NEC general guidelines. It's essential to consult with the local building department or a qualified electrical inspector to ensure compliance with all applicable codes. When evaluating the necessity of a receptacle on a narrow countertop, consider the proximity of other receptacles in the vicinity. If there are readily accessible receptacles nearby, such as on adjacent walls or countertops, the need for an additional receptacle may be reduced. However, it's important to ensure that the existing receptacles are sufficient to handle the anticipated electrical load without overloading the circuit. In situations where the countertop's primary function is uncertain or may evolve, it's generally prudent to err on the side of caution and install a receptacle. This provides flexibility for future use and avoids the need for costly and disruptive electrical work later on. Installing a receptacle during the initial construction or renovation phase is typically more cost-effective than adding one later. Even if a receptacle is not immediately required, it can serve as a valuable convenience for charging electronic devices, powering small appliances, or providing lighting in the bar area. Considering the long-term usability and adaptability of the space is essential. The type of receptacle installed can also impact its safety and functionality. Ground fault circuit interrupter, or GFCI, receptacles are required in kitchen areas and other locations where moisture is present. GFCI receptacles provide protection against electrical shock by detecting ground faults and interrupting the circuit. Ensure that any receptacle installed on or near a countertop meets GFCI requirements. Furthermore, tamper-resistant receptacles, or TRRs, are recommended to prevent children from inserting objects into the slots. TRR feature internal shutters that block access unless a two-pronged plug is inserted simultaneously. This adds an extra layer of safety, especially in households with young children. The installation of receptacles should adhere to standard electrical practices and safety guidelines. All wiring connections must be made securely and enclosed within approved electrical boxes. The receptacle must be properly grounded to prevent electrical hazards. If you are not comfortable performing electrical work yourself, it's best to hire a qualified electrician to handle the installation. A professional electrician can ensure that the work is done safely and in compliance with all applicable codes. The decision of whether to install a receptacle on a narrow countertop depends on various factors, including the countertop's intended function, local code requirements, the proximity of other receptacles, and the potential for future use. It's crucial to carefully evaluate these factors and consult with qualified professionals to determine the most appropriate course of action. By following these guidelines, you can ensure the safety and functionality of the electrical system in your family room bar area. Let's now consider a few scenarios to further illustrate the application of these principles. Suppose the 6-inch deep countertop in the family room bar area is primarily used for displaying decorative items such as glassware, bottles, and artwork. In this case, the need for a receptacle may be minimal, as there's unlikely to be any requirement for countertop appliances. However, if the countertop is located near a seating area where people often gather to socialize, providing a receptacle for charging mobile devices or powering small table lamps could enhance the usability of the space. Now, let's imagine that the homeowner intends to use the family room bar area for preparing cocktails and serving snacks. In this scenario, the countertop might be used for blending drinks, operating a small ice maker, or warming appetizers. Consequently, installing a receptacle would be highly recommended to accommodate these activities. Even if the countertop is only 6 inches deep, a compact appliance like a blender or a portable ice maker could potentially fit on the surface, making the receptacle a valuable asset. Finally, let's consider a situation where the family room bar area is part of a larger entertainment space that includes a home theater system, a gaming console, and other electronic devices. In this case, the countertop might be used for holding remote controls, charging wireless headphones, or powering a small television. Consequently, installing a receptacle would be essential to support the operation of these devices and avoid the need for extension cords or power strips. The decision of whether to install a receptacle on a narrow countertop should be based on a comprehensive assessment of the space's intended use, the homeowner's preferences, and any applicable code requirements. By carefully considering these factors, you can ensure that the electrical system in your family room bar area meets your needs while maintaining safety and compliance.